I didn't know the most dangerous passenger I would ever pick up would be the last one on my route. My name is DeMARIO FRAZIER.
Welcome to the Trudgery, a zone for true horror stories, disturbing encounters, and twisted tales that were never meant to be heard. Until now.
The following cases are based on a true story. I didn't know the most dangerous passenger I would ever pick up would be the last one on my route. My name is DeMARIO FRAZIER. I'm 33, born and raised in Washington, D.C., and I've been driving buses long enough to trust my instincts. That night, my instincts were screaming, but rent was due, overtime was good, and I told myself fear was just fatigue. It was close to midnight when he stepped on at the Georgia Avenue stop. No bag, no phone, just a man who looked like life had been draining out of him for a while. His hands shook when he grabbed the rail.
"Hey man," he
said quietly.
"You got any spare change?"
I shouldn't have answered, but I thought about how earlier that night I was texting my girlfriend, Nia. We were arguing again about money, about whether love survives when finances don't. Fear of economic insecurity has a way of making everyone look desperate eventually. I gave him a few dollars. His eyes locked on mine like I'd done more than just help him.
"Thank you,"
he said. Then he added,
"I need to go somewhere off route."
That's when the shift changed. He told me he needed to meet someone. Said there was money involved, cash. I hesitated, but he offered me some if I helped. That's the part that still messes with me. How fast I justified it. Love and money both make you believe small compromises don't count. Romance and finance. I turned the wheel. We drove farther out than I liked. Deep into the county. Merlin. Streetlights thinned. The city fell away. Trees crowded the road, dark and dense. I recognized the area too late, Belt Woods. People talk about it like it's just a park, but locals know better. Things get lost there, people too. The bus grew quiet, too quiet. My radio crackled and died. GPS froze. The man stood behind me now, close enough that I could smell damp earth on his clothes.
"You ever noticed,"
he whispered,
"how some places watch you back?"
I laughed nervously. "This your stop or not?" He pointed down the dirt road, barely wide enough for the bus. I slowed. My chest felt tight. Every instinct told me not to go any farther. I was in regret mode. That's when he said it.
"Can you see them? They can see you."
The headlights caught the woods, and I swear the darkness shifted. Not like animals moving, like it was preparing to greet a guest. The bus stalled. He stepped off without another word and disappeared between the trees. I tried the ignition. Nothing. Just clicking. Then I saw movement at the edge of the clearing. Shapes. Still. Watching. I stayed in my seat. I thought about Nia. About how we always said love was our safety net. About how fragile that sounded now. There's a lesson people learn too late. All money ain't good money. I f***ed up. Leaves crunched behind the bus. I looked in the mirror and saw footprints forming in the dirt. Bare. Too many. Coming from places no one should have been standing. I snapped out of it. Nope. I slammed the ignition again. The engine roared back like it had never been dead. I didn't wait. I threw it in reverse. Clipped a tree, didn't care. As I backed out, I caught one last glimpse of the clearing. The man was standing there again, except he hadn't walked back. He was just there, smiling like he'd gotten what he needed. What the hell just happened? I hit pavement and didn't stop driving until the city lights swallowed me whole. The next morning, I searched the news. A man matching his description had been reported missing near Belt Woods. No wallet, no phone. Last seen asking for money. No mention of a bus. I never reported it. I told myself it was shock, exhaustion, But some nights, when I close my eyes, I still see the footprints forming in the darkness. I still hear leaves moving without wind. Nia and I work things out, kind of. We still argue, still struggle, still sit at Ben's chili bowl, pretending wings with mambo sauce fixes everything. But love feels different now. Still romantic, but more alert, because I learned something that night. Something I carry every time a stranger steps onto my bus with empty pockets and desperate eyes. Some people aren't asking for money. They're looking for passage to unknown destinations. I didn't plan to hurt anyone the night my knitting saved my life. But New Orleans has a way of teaching you what you're capable of when the lights go out. My name is Lovely Satin, which sounds like a lie I tell strangers to spice up conversations. I'm 26, a cashier by daylight, and as of recent, a dancer at a gentleman's club off Tulane. Because rent doesn't care about dignity, and grief doesn't pay utilities. Period. I take care of my little sister, Trinity, since our daddy died sudden and clean the way good men sometimes do. He left behind silence and a stack of bills that purloin when you open them. I didn't tell Trinity about the club. She thinks I work nights at the grocery, inventory, overtime, blessings from God. She's 15 and still believes me when I say things like, everything's gonna be okay. I believe it too most days. I tell myself, money is only a tool. Use it, but don't worship it. Then I tape that thought to the fridge with a grocery coupon and a prayer. The club smells like spilled beer and cologne with something sour underneath like a warning. I dance because the math demands it. Because the bus home doesn't care why you're tired. Because the men clap and leer and call me baby like it's my name. I hate the way some of them look at me, like I'm a door they can push on to see if it's locked. They think cash makes consent automatic. They think buying a song buys a soul. They prowl around on hookup apps, lurking like a future regret. They keep one foot in the gutter and the other on their girlfriend's ottoman. I pray I never find this kind of love. On nights when my skin feels borrowed, I knit on the bus. Yup, click, click. 2 needles tapping like a heartbeat. Yarn calms me. It's honest. You put in the time, you get a scarf. I knit because it's the opposite of the club. No music, no hands, just loops turning into something warm. That night, the night everything split. The bus was late, the air was thick with summer rain that never falls. I wore my cashier hoodie over my work clothes and kept my head down. That's when I noticed him. He'd been at the club earlier, didn't tip, didn't blink, tried to slide me a business card like it was a secret handshake. He talked about setting up clients, said I could make real money if I stopped pretending to be shy. I told him no. I always say no. I say it sweet, so it lands soft. I say it firm, so it sticks. On the bus, he sat too close, even when there were open seats. I could smell mint and something medicinal. He watched my hands.
You make stuff?
He asked. His voice had that creepy smile in it. Just passing time, I said. When I got off early, because my gut started screaming, I felt him behind me, footsteps matching mine, the street lights singing in the background like they were deciding whether to help. New Orleans does that. It tests you. The houses leaned in. Wind chimes clicked. Somewhere a radio played a gospel song about walking through valleys.
Lovely,
He said, like he knew me all my life. I walked faster. My apartment was 4 blocks away. Trinity would be asleep, headphones on, dreaming about being anywhere else. I thought about my daddy's voice, telling me to keep my eyes up and my keys between my fingers. I thought about his mantra I've been whispering all week. Keep taking the next right action. He grabbed my arm in the shadow of a live oak. His grip was confident, practiced.
You owe me a conversation,
He said. I don't remember deciding. I remember the yarn slipping, the bus ticket fluttering to the ground, the needle cold and perfect in my palm. Knitting needles are not toys. They are tools. They are precise. They are honest. I screamed. He laughed. I drove the needle where the laughter lived. Once, twice. It wasn't dramatic. It was fast and ugly and final. He made a sound like air leaving a balloon. And then there was just me and the tree and the night. I ran. I washed my hands until they burned. I hid the yarn. I checked on Trinity, watched her breathe, counted the seconds like stitches. Sirens wailed somewhere far off, then closer, then past. The police came days later with questions and eyes that lingered. A man had been found pin-cushioned under an oak, alive but changed. He said a girl with needles attacked him. I just said I was at work. I said I knit. I said nothing else. Sometimes on the bus, the lights flicker and my needles click on their own, keeping time with the city that remembers everything. Sometimes I swear I feel my daddy's hand steadying mine. Sometimes I wonder if the oak remembers me. I moved us to a better neighborhood last month. Trinity has her own room now. I still dance, I still knit, I still take the bus. Because if you're listening close enough, the click of the needle sounds like a warning, and I'm still alive to tell you who doesn't get to follow me home. Period. The first thing I noticed was the silence. No crickets, no frogs, just a lake holding its breath. My name is BAKARI BRADSHAW. I'm 37, a former fireman out of New Bern, North Carolina. I used to run into burning houses for a living. Now I run from my own thoughts. I retired early, stressed, they wrote on the paperwork. But the truth is I cracked, I cheated, over and over and over and over. My wife divorced me. I love my kids more than oxygen, and every month child support reminds me how badly I messed up. I work security now. Long nights, empty buildings, keys that don't open anything important. The money barely covers rent. I tell myself, if I just make more, just a little more, I'll be whole again. Like wholeness is something you can voice. The escorting started after a drunken one-night stand with a personal trainer I met at a bar near the river. She laughed at my jokes and touched my arm like it mattered. In the morning, she said, casually, like she was recommending a podcast, that men like me did well in her line of work. Strong, quiet, safe, she said, and smiled like that word had a second meaning. I told myself it was harmless if there was no relationship. I told myself a lot of things. Most nights were hotel rooms, businessmen, couples experimenting, boundaries, cash on the dresser. Don't get attached. Don't ask names. It felt controlled, managed, until the soldier. He contacted me through an app that I now despise. The profile picture was a lake at sunset. His message was polite, formal, said he was active duty, home on leave, wanted companionship for him and his wife. Location, a cabin by a private lake, 2 hours inland. Pay was more than I made in a week of security shifts. I hesitated. Then I thought about my kids' shoes. I thought about the number in my bank account. I accepted. On the drive out, my phone lost signal, mile by mile. Pines closed in. The road narrowed to gravel. I don't know why, but I remembered something my old captain used to say after bad calls. But for the grace of God, there go I. It was his way of not losing his mind. Mine too. The cabin sat alone, backed by black water that didn't reflect the moon. The soldier, Evan, met me on the porch. Tall, fit, clean cut. His wife, Jess, stood behind him. She didn't smile. Something about her posture made the air feel crowded, Inside, the cabin was immaculate. No personal photos, no clutter, just military precision and a low hum, like electricity. Evan poured drinks and made small talk about deployments, discipline, how civilians don't understand sacrifice. He laughed once and said, "Treat your girl like you treat your TV." He waited for a reaction. I smiled because that's what I do. As the night went on, the rules blurred. Evan didn't participate much. He watched. He directed. If I moved too fast, he'd clear his throat. If Jess flinched, he'd say, "Again." She never spoke to me directly. Not once. When our eyes met, I felt like I was being cataloged. At one point, Evan stepped outside to take a call. The silence snapped tight. Jess leaned close enough that I could smell lake water and something ripe. She whispered,
Pain is the touchstone of spiritual growth.
Her voice didn't match her mouth. It sounded layered, like two recordings slightly out of sync. I laughed it off. Nervous habit. I've seen shock do weird things to people. I told myself this was kink, not danger. Then Evan came back in carrying a duffel bag. He set it on the table and unzipped it slowly. Inside were zip ties, duct tape, a small handheld camera, and a laminated card with rules printed in block letters. Rule 1, obedience brings harmony. Rule 2, resistance teaches lessons. I stood up, said I was leaving. Evan didn't raise his voice. He just said,
"You're safe if you follow instructions."
Jess's eyes never left mine. That's when the power went out. No storm, no warning, just black. The hum stopped. The lake outside went dead quiet again. I reached for my phone. No signal, no light. Evan moved like he'd rehearsed it 100 times. A flashlight snapped on, blinding me. He smiled like a man at work. What happened next is in the police report as a misunderstanding. What it felt like was a test. They bound my wrists. They asked questions that weren't questions. About fires I couldn't save. About my kids' birthdays. About the women I betrayed. Jess circled me, barefoot, not making a sound. Every time I tried to speak, Evan pressed a finger to my lips. At some point, the camera turned toward the door. Jess stood framed by darkness, taller than before, her shadow stretching wrong along the wall. They must have slipped me something. She said my name without moving her mouth. I broke then, not physically, spiritually. I thought about my children. I thought about all the times I'd almost done the right thing. I whispered my ex-wife's name like a prayer. Malaysia. The lights came back on. Evan froze. Jess stepped back like she'd been startled awake. The zip ties loosened. Cut, not untied. Evan stammered something about boundaries, about consent, about stress. The soldier mask slipped. I grabbed my keys and ran. I didn't stop until sunrise. The sheriff took my statement. Said the cabin was rented under a different name. Said the couple had left town before dawn. No prior complaints. No evidence of a crime that would stick. The case file closed thin. I quit escorting that week. Still worked security. Still paid child support. Still hate myself some days, but I hug my kids harder. I don't chase wholeness with cash anymore. Sometimes, late at night, when the building's quiet, I hear that hum again, and I think about the lake holding its breath, because somewhere out there is a cabin that remembers my name, and I'm not sure it's done telling my story. The night I learned how thin trailer walls really are, someone was already standing on the other side of mine. My name is Belinda Collins. I'm 31, a waitress in Louisville, Kentucky. Louisville, if you say it right. And this really happened, or close enough that I still wake up tasting metal in my mouth. I live in a rundown double wide that sags like it's tired of pretending. The floor dips by the hallway. The bathroom light flutters like it's nervous. And when the wind hits just right, The whole place exhales. I used to think it was cozy. I share it with my boyfriend Scooter, recently paroled, extra big and extra stupid, but God help me, cute. When he smiles, his eyes crinkle like he's apologizing in advance. When he's sober, he rubs my feet and calls me Belle. When he's not, he forgets where he is and who's listening. I work doubles, come home smelling like fryer oil, and eat burgoo straight from the pot. I watch Wheel of Fortune and tell myself I'll start walking tomorrow. I dip sweet sorghum cookies in milk and listen to Lisa Romano on YouTube. She talks about boundaries while I ignore every single one of mine. I've gained weight from stress and call it hibernation, like I'm some kind of bear instead of a tired woman with an overdrawn account. I tell myself stories to survive. One of them goes like this. I'm just a typical, anxiously attached Louisville gal, working a crappy job to scrape by until my no-good boyfriend decides to do right. Another story goes like this. Scooter's friends are temporary. They aren't. They started showing up after dark, then during the day, then whenever. Men with nicknames and laugh lines that didn't match their eyes. They took over my couch, my outlets, my kitchen table. I would come home and there would be a stranger eating my leftovers, nodding at me like I was a waitress in my own life. Scooter started using more, then selling a little, then selling from my house. I said, shut the front door. The first time I realized what was happening, like if I said it loud enough, the problem would politely step outside. It didn't. The night it went bad was humid, the kind of Kentucky summer night that sticks to you. I'd just gotten off a double and my feet were screaming. The trailer smelled like sweat, balls and cheap cologne and something sharp I didn't want to identify. Scooter was wired, jaw working, pacing. He kissed my cheek too hard. Around midnight, there was a knock. Not a polite knock, a knock like punctuation. Scooter froze. I felt it before I understood it. Like the air closed in. One of his friends whispered something. Scooter told me to go to the bedroom. I didn't. I stood by the hallway, gripping the door frame like it could hold me together. The knock came again. Then a voice, low and careful.
Open up.
Scooter cracked the door. A man stood on the porch, thin as a bad idea. Eyes sunk deep, like he'd been awake for weeks. He smiled without warmth.
A penny for your thoughts, $1 for your naught.
I don't know why that stuck with me. Maybe because it sounded rehearsed. Maybe because it felt old, like a saying that had waited a long time to be used. The man said Scooter owed him, said he'd been cheated, said he wasn't leaving empty-handed. His hand stayed in his jacket pocket the whole time. I noticed stupid things. The porch light buzzing, a cicada screaming like it was on fire. The way the man's shadow didn't move right when he shifted his weight. Just a second off, just enough to make my stomach drop. Scooter started talking fast, promising, lying. The man's eyes flicked to me. He smiled again.
You live here?
He asked. I nodded, because I always nod. He took a step forward. The trailer creaked like it was clearing its throat. For a second, I swear the hallway behind me felt longer, darker, like it was stretching. He said my name. Not ma'am, not you. My name. I still don't know how he knew it. That's when I smelled it. Something like pennies and rain in old basements. He leaned in close enough that I could see a scar near his ear, shaped like a question mark.
This place remembers,
he said softly.
People think walls forget.
The scooter lunged. Everything went loud and slow at the same time. There was shouting, something crashing, the porch light finally popping out. I backed into the hallway and hit the wall, and for a second, I felt a pressure at my back, like a hand, not grabbing, just steadying, grounding me. The man stumbled, cursed, and then he was gone, melting into the dark, like he'd never been there at all. The police came, took statements, looked at Scooter like they were doing math. Nobody mentioned the smell. Nobody mentioned the obvious. Scooter swore he'd change. He didn't. I moved out 3 weeks later. Left the cookies, the couch, the stories. Sometimes, late at night, I still hear that knock in my head. That's trauma, measured and patient, like it knows exactly where I am. And if you think this couldn't happen to you, that's what I thought too, right up until the walls started listening. If you ever find a single chess piece on your pillow, leave your apartment immediately, because that's how my life almost ended. My name is MOUSTAPHA SMITH-BEY, and before any of this, my life made sense. I'm an architect in New York City. I'm from Harlem. Good firm, solid money, clean hands. I'm a beautiful chocolate-toned man with a glorious beard. I keep brushed like my grandfather taught me, the way men used to take pride in surviving. I'm loving. I'm kind. I played chess with the old heads on 125th Street. I listened to them argue about Marcus Garvey and the Panthers, like history might get offended if we forget it. I believed in systems, blueprints, load-bearing truths. That belief almost got me killed. Most mornings, I nod to my neighbor on the way out. Kafaholic, I say. Humdulillah, he'd answer, smiling like a man who's seen enough to know peace is rented, not owned. At the firm, I was doing well. Promotions come quicker when your designs don't collapse and your conscience doesn't wobble. Not everyone was so lucky. A few coworkers, dudes who laughed too loud, watched too closely, were drowning quietly. Bad divorces, bad investments, a taste for living. Like tomorrow was optional. Money does strange things when it starts loving you back. It whispers. It tells you you're special. That rules are for people who don't hustle hard enough. I watched good men turn into runners chasing a dollar that kept moving the finish line. I didn't mean to discover anything. That's how it always starts. A line item out of place, a vendor paid twice, a project that cost more on paper than it did in concrete. I told myself it was nothing, until nothing started repeating. When you build for a living, you know when something's hollow. I stayed late one night, the office quiet, like it was holding its breath. I followed the numbers the way I follow stress fractures, slow, patient. What I found was a siphon, small amounts shaved off here and there, routed through shell companies like back alleys, enough to ruin someone if it ever came to light, enough to make desperate men braver than they should be. I reported it, not loudly, not dramatically. I thought the system would protect me. Instead, the air changed. Conversation stopped when I walked in. My phone glitched, missed calls that never rang. One coworker randomly slapped me on the shoulder too hard and said,
"Man, you gotta relax."
He smiled like it was a joke. It wasn't. Real corny movements. That man ain't built like me. He must not know. Another time in the elevator, someone leaned close and whispered,
"Wear that little thing I like,"
and laughed when I flinched. Everyone was acting weird, like they were trying to intimidate me. Like my fear was foreplay. Fear is a corrosive thread. It eats through logic first. I started walking home instead of taking the train, needing the cold air to keep me sharp. One night, I cut through Central Park, something I'd done 100 times. The city was quiet in that way that feels staged, like a set waiting for actors. Halfway in, I noticed I wasn't alone, footsteps mimicking mine, then stopped when I stopped. A bike light flickered between trees. I told myself it was nothing, but my body didn't listen. I'm from Harlem. My body remembered ancestors who survived by not needing proof. A voice called my name, not shouted, spoken like it knew me. I turned and saw 3 figures step out of the dark. Suits without ties, shoes too clean for the park. One of them worked 2 desks over from me. Another I recognized from a meeting he was never supposed to attend. They didn't outright threaten me. That's the wildest part. They spoke calmly, reasonably, like men explaining a weather report. They told me I misunderstood the numbers, that people get hurt when misunderstandings grow legs. One of them smiled and said,
"You're a good man, Mustafa. Good men don't want trouble."
A bunch of bold goofies. Behind them, the park felt wrong. Too still. The trees leaned like they were listening. Then I saw something impossible and small. A white chest knight, standing upright on a bench, clean as if placed there on purpose. I hadn't brought a set. No one else I knew played out here. One of the men followed my gaze and stiffened for just a second, like he'd seen it before. That's when I booked it. They chased me, shoes slapping pavement, breath turning ugly. I cut left, then right, heart trying to break out of my ribs. Somewhere behind me, metal scraped metal, a knife, maybe more. As I sprinted, I heard another sound, footsteps that weren't theirs and weren't mine. Too many, too close, like the park itself had decided to walk. I burst out onto the street, nearly colliding with a patrol car that hadn't been there a moment before. Lights flared, voices shouted. The men vanished into the dark like they'd been erased. The officers asked questions. I gave answers, clean ones, plausible ones. The case went quiet, too quiet. The firm announced restructuring. Names disappeared from email chains. One coworker moved overseas overnight. Another was found expired months later. Ruled an accident involving debt and a fall. I still find things sometimes. A chess piece in strange places. A voicemail that's just breathing. Once on my pillow, a night laid on its side like it had lost a battle. I kid you not, I still greet my neighbor. Kayfaholic. Humdulillah. I still play chess with the old heads, and when they talk about money, I listen harder than before, because I've seen what happens when you treat life like a hustle, and people like currency. Eventually, you spin yourself. I'm alive, I'm careful, and I'm telling you this because some truths don't stay buried. If you hear your name spoken gently from the dark, don't answer, because whatever found me is still walking and it wants to finish the game. If you enjoyed the video, press that like button and consider subscribing to the channel. Stay tuned for more great stories.